In the previous lecture, we talked about what organizational culture is, and also we identified the visible elements of organizational culture as well as invisible ones. And now we're going to talk about why we have cultures. What's the purpose or function of an organizational culture? Let's get started. As we discussed in the previous lecture, organizational culture defines the rules of the game. First, it has a boundary-defining role. It creates distinctions between organizations. As described in the definition of organizational culture, it makes every organization unique. Because of the existence of its culture, one organization will show the same unique personality as the individuals. Second, it conveys a sense of identity for organizational members. If we all share the same norms, values, and the traditions of the culture, it's a bond that makes us alike and makes those who are not part of our culture different, and that is social identity. Third, culture facilitates commitment to something larger than individual self-interest. Organizational culture focuses on people-centered management. It can stimulate the enthusiasm and initiative of employees to the maximum, which is an internal motivation rather than an external promotion. It doesn't passively meet the employees' psychological needs to realize their own values, but through the shaping of organizational culture, it makes employees dedicate themselves to the organization actively. Fourth, it enhances the stability of the social system. Culture is the social glue that helps hold the organization together by providing standards for what employees should say and do. Last but not the least, it's a sense-making and control mechanism that guides and shapes employees' attitudes and behavior. It's a sort of automatic pilot. This last function is of particular interest to us. It improves sense-making by letting the employees understand what goes on and why. So, if you work for Walmart, you know why you are not allowed to take lazy breaks on the clock. Because that drives up labor cost, which drives up cost, which must then be transferred to the customer. Which varies the culture that says at Walmart, its mantra is always the low price. So it helps you understand why things are the way they are. As discussed above, organizational culture can enhance organizational commitment and increase the consistency of employee behavior, which clearly benefits an organization. Culture is valuable to employees too, because it spells out how things are done and what is important. But we shouldn't ignore the potentially dysfunctional aspects of culture, especially a strong one, on an organization's effectiveness. Let's unpack some of major factors that signal a negative organizational culture, beginning with institutionalization. When an organization undergoes institutionalization, that is, it becomes valued for itself and not for the goods or service it produces, it takes on a life of its own, apart from its founders or members. Institutionalized organizations often don't go out of business, even if the original goals are no longer relevant. Acceptable modes of behavior become largely self-evident to members, and although this isn't entirely negative, it does mean behaviors and habits go unquestioned, which can stifle innovation and make maintaining the organization's culture an end in itself. Culture is a liability when shared values don't agree with those that further the organization's effectiveness. This is most likely when an organization's environment is undergoing rapid change, and its entrenched culture may no longer be appropriate. Consistency of behavior, an asset in a stable environment, may then burden the organization and make it difficult to respond to changes. Hiring new employees who differ from the majority in race, age, gender, disability, or other characteristics creates a paradox. Management wants to demonstrate support for the differences these employees bring to the workplace, but newcomers who wish to fit in must accept the organization's core culture. And second, because diverse behaviors and unique strengths are likely to diminish as people assimilate, strong cultures can become liabilities when they effectively eliminate the advantages of diversity. Third, a strong culture that tolerates prejudice, supports bias, or become insensitive to differences that can undermine formal corporate diversity policies. In general, we have discussed the cultures that cohere around a positive set of values and attitudes. This consensus can create powerful forward momentum. However, coherence around negativity and dysfunctional management systems in incorporation can produce downward forces that are equally powerful. One study of thousands of hospitality industry employees in hundreds of locations found that local organizational cultures marked by low or decreasing job satisfaction had higher levels of turnover. As we know from this text, low job satisfaction and high turnover indicate dysfunction on organization's part. Negative attitudes in groups end to negative outcomes, suggesting a powerful influence of culture on individuals. Historically, when management look at acquisition or merger decisions, the key decision factors were potential financial advantages and product synergy. In recent years, cultural compatibility has become the primary concern. All things being equal, whether the acquisition works seems to have much to do with how well the two organizations' cultures match up. When they don't match well, the organizational cultures of both become a liability to the whole new organization. A study conducted by Bain and Company found that 17% of mergers failed to increase shareholder values, and Hay Group found that more than 19% of mergers in Europe failed to reach financial goals. For example, the $183 billion merger between American Online and Time Warner in 2001 was the largest in United States corporate history. That must be a match made in heaven. But the cultures of these companies were so different that eventually they split back up as well. Only 2 years later, the new company saw its stock fall an astounding 19%, and it reported what was largest financial loss in United history. As we discussed in this lecture, in many cases of business success stories, positive changes to organization's performance have been clearly attributed to its excellent organizational culture. despite of some potentially dysfunction aspects of organizational culture. To create a truly successful and sustainable business, an organization must develop a long-term organizational culture and put its values into practice. In next lecture, we will discuss how to create and sustain organizational culture. That's all for this lecture. See you next time.